You're listening to Three Things to Know with Stephanie Haney, with experts and insiders on what you need to know in Northeast Ohio.
Hi there, everybody. Welcome back to the Three Things to Know podcast. I am Stephanie Haney, and as always, very excited to have you here. We have fun guests for you today. We have reality TV stars that we'll be talking to today from a brand new show coming out on Oxygen. The show is called 911 Crisis Center, and it is following the lives of 911 call center dispatchers in Chagrin Falls, Ohio, right here in Ohio, here in Northeast Ohio. I just love to see people from our area get their time in the spotlight. So this will be very interesting. Our guests that we'll be talking to in just a few moments are Mara Wargo and Andy Watkins, who I actually know. Andy and I went to high school together, and I saw him posting about being on this show online. And when I saw that, I thought, you guys got to come on the podcast. So very excited to be talking with them today. I'll tell you what, I personally, here's a little known fact about me, have a little bit of experience with reality TV. I was on a reality show back in 2013, 2014. Nothing crazy. We did have one season. It was on E! It was called The Drama Queen, and it was about my boss at the time who ran a TV hosting talent management company and a school, and I helped her run the school and did some of her legal affairs for the company, and it was a trip. It was a real experience. So I can tell you, I can speak from firsthand experience that reality TV is intense. And, we'll ask Andy and we'll ask Mara just how real their experience was. But the one thing that I tell everyone when people ask, was it real or was it fake? I will tell you this. It was real to me. I was living that every day for hours and hours a day, long days, cameras on you all the time. Never know when you're going to say something that might end up, being taken out of context or whatever. But it is, at least from my experience, very real. So I'll be interested to hear what Andy and Mara have to say about that. And nothing that we were doing was as high stakes as a 911 call center. So that, just a whole nother element, I'm sure. I cannot wait to hear from them. They're going to talk to us all about that experience, tell us what it was like for them, maybe share some insight in what we might see in the new show. Again, the show is called 911 Crisis Center. It's coming out on Oxygen on Saturday, November 6th. That'll be at 9/8 Central. So without further ado, let's bring our stars in. Let's see what Andy and Mara have to say about their time on 911 Crisis Center.
Mara and Andy, thank you so much for being here on the Three Things to Know podcast.
Thank you.
Hello, thanks.
Very exciting to have you here. Now, I got to let everybody know before we get started here. Andy, great to see you again. We went to high school together in Canton, in Perry High School.
We did. That was so long ago.
It was so long ago. Well, it wasn't that long ago. Long enough ago. But
long enough ago.
Very excited to see that you were a part of this show, the 911 Crisis Center show. Always love to see the people here in Northeast Ohio getting in the spotlight. Mara, where is your hometown?
Hometown is Auburn Township, but currently in Euclid.
Okay. All right. So you're an Ohio lady as well. We love to see it. You two are a part of this new show, 911 Crisis Center on Oxygen, following 911 dispatch center in Chagrin Falls. I'll ask you first, Mara, what was it like to be a part of the show?
Definitely unique. Something I never in a million years thought I'd ever be a part of. I never thought I would ever do reality TV. So it was unique. It was different. It was exciting.
Reality TV sure is something. Andy, I'll ask you now, how did this opportunity come about?
For the whole center, it actually started before I actually got there. I don't know if they went around and checked out different centers. I think, Mara, I don't know if you know anymore since you're still there, or you were there before me.
I don't know if they checked out different centers or not, but I just know that we had management come to us with this idea of doing a reality show. And of course, all of us were super excited. We're like, yeah, let's do this. So then we got involved.
All right. Well, hey, sometimes these things just happen. They just come to us. We don't question it. The universe brings it in. How many episodes are we looking at here for the show?
10, I think, right? Is it 10?
I think so, but I don't know the final count on it.
Okay. All right. So we've got a good series going for us here, something that we'll be able to kind of get into, latch onto. Andy, how long did the filming last for the show?
They came in a little bit beforehand to kind of do like a test run, I believe. And then they came back for a full 10 weeks where they had cameras mounted up on our stations, and then also cameramen walking along the floor for anytime any one of us got loud. They're over there in their headpiece, and they're like, so and so's getting loud. You see the little cameraman run up, and then all of a sudden they're in your face.
Interesting. So Mara, did it feel like they were just kind of a part of the atmosphere, or could you feel their presence there? Did you know they were being filmed while this was happening, just consciously?
At first, yeah, the first few weeks you're on edge, you're nervous, you don't know what to expect. They're in and out of your face with the cameras, and they always tell you just act natural, just do what you do. And that's so hard for us because we are so used to just doing it and not being watched, but now you're being watched. And after a few weeks, we kind of got used to them, and we were just going about our day like normal.
They kind of blend into the background after a little while, right?
Yep.
So Andy, I think the number one question for people when they're watching reality TV is it all real? So is everything that we're going to see here real? Is there anything that's manufactured at all?
No, I think it's all, I don't know what the final cut is, but it was just us there 12 hours a day. They had the cameras in our face, and we just kind of did our thing. So it was real on our end. What they spice up or how they change it, to bring that dramatic effect in, that's on them.
That's true. You never know what's going to happen on the cutting room floor. And that is a very seasoned response. It sounds like maybe you've done this before, but I don't think so, right? This is both of your first forays into reality TV.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, so Andy, you mentioned 12-hour days. So I'll ask, what are the hours like for a 911 dispatcher? What's the work week like? Is it a 12-hour day typically?
I think it depends on centers and their staffing levels. At Chagrin, it was 12-hour days, and they would cycle like 2 on, 2 off, 3 on, 2 off, so it'd be like a 2-week cycle. Other agencies, they do 8 hours or 10-hour shifts. And, those start anywhere from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. or, vice versa. When we started at Chagrin, we started at 6 a.m. So that hurt a little.
Yeah. That's bright and early in the day. Now, are the two of you familiar with the movie that recently came out, Guilty, with Jake Gyllenhaal?
I am not, but I also don't watch anything 911 related in theatrical forms because it's usually not real and it just frustrates me. So I try to avoid watching movies like that.
What about you, Andy? Are you familiar with the movie?
It's a wise choice, Mara. I know of it, but I haven't watched it. And everybody that has said it's nothing like an actual dispatcher.
Okay, that was my question, is how true to form is it? It was an interesting movie. It had an interesting twist at the end. I won't give away anything for anyone who hasn't seen it, but I was quite curious. It didn't seem like something that I would expect to see. So I'm expecting to see maybe something a little bit different on this 911 crisis center. My next question for you all is then, if you can share from your experiences, not necessarily just from the show, but I'll start with you, Mara. Is there a standout call that you've received, something that was maybe just really off the wall, really interesting, maybe really scary?
So I have 2 that have always stood out. So I actually delivered a baby once over the phone, a little girl. Wow. I think she's going to be about 4 years old this year. I have not met the family or anything, but I keep track just because that was so memorable for me, like how many opportunities are going to get for that. And then the second one is I actually helped a resident perform the Heimlich maneuver on her dog and rescued a dog over the phone.
Oh, we love that. That's incredible. Both of those absolutely incredible stories. What about you, Andy?
That sticks out for me. I've had CPR calls that go both ways. I think the one that really comes to mind was when I was at Chagrin. I had a shooting on a car, and the female called me, and she was driving around in her car because she was shot and she didn't want to go back to where she was. It took a little bit to try and get her to pull over. When she finally pulled over, that way I was able to send the ambulance to her to give her help. If she's driving around, we can't have the ambulance chase her. So she finally pulled over, and then when I got the ambulance started, she started driving again. So then I finally got her pulled over, and she said, somebody's outside my car. And I was like, give them the phone. Gave them the phone. I was like, reach in and take her keys. Don't let her drive again. I have the ambulance on the way. so, and then from there, it's just providing some care until the ambulance gets there. But that one sticks out in my mind.
Sure. Yeah. That sounds very tense. And you're having these conversations with these people. You're building this very, limited relationship in a very intimate situation. These people are in distress. Have you ever had anybody want to come by and say thank you, or have you ever met any of your callers in person?
I have never personally met anyone, but I had a suicidal caller that I helped walk through the entire day. He was driving around with a gun. He was contemplating suicide. I actually had him call me later in the day once he had gotten to the hospital to actually tell me thank you, because he actually was in such a bad state that he was seriously contemplating ending his life. And he did call me to thank me later. And we talked a couple times after that. And I've also talked to the owner who had the dog that was choking. I've talked to her and been in touch with her via email quite a few times since.
Wow. What about you, Andy?
No, I've had people reach out via the phone and say, thanks, you did great, you helped me out through this. But I've never met anybody in person.
Okay. Here's something that was in that movie, and I'm not giving anything away by saying this, but in that movie Guilty, if someone calls and you get disconnected for whatever reason, or they hang up or something, and then they call back, in the movie, they route it to the same dispatcher. Is that the case in real life?
No, chances are you're not going to get the same dispatcher unless it's a smaller agency. When you call our center, we have 17 agencies. So we have anywhere from 9 to 11 people on the floor. So anybody is going to be answering that call. It's not usually going to be the same person.
Okay. So stay on the line, I think, is the message there, right? So that you don't have to
Yes.
start over asking for that help, describing that situation. Now, I'll return this question to you, Mara, first. This is such an intense line of work. Obviously, we're going to get a glimpse into it when we see this show on Oxygen. How does one decide to go into this line of work? How did that happen for you?
It was not something that I was a little girl and was like, oh, I can't wait to be a dispatcher. It was never like that for me. I actually got into law enforcement first. I actually wanted to be on a road first. And then I had a couple different challenges that came up and was like, maybe this just isn't the right road for me. And at the time I was doing ride-alongs with some local agencies, and they were like, hey, our dispatch center is hiring. If you're into this kind of stuff, maybe this might be a different route for you to look into. And it kind of fell into place where I got the job, and I've just been there for 6 years ever since.
And what about you, Andy?
Mine's kind of similar to Mara's. It initially started out, I wanted to be an officer, and I was looking for different ways in. A lot of the departments send you to the academy first, and sometimes you can just sign up and go to them yourself. So I was kind of looking for they send you part. So I went to a job fair once, and they were hiring dispatchers, and I was like, well, this could be a shoe-in to being an officer. And so I signed up, got hired, been there ever since. And I liked it so much, I was like, I don't want to be an officer anymore.
Well, it certainly takes a specific temperament to be in that situation, to stay calm, to be able to walk these people through these potentially very dire situations. Andy, do you have any tips or tricks or ways that you channel calmness to help you stay steadfast through those situations?
Myself personally, I try to separate myself from what's going on there, because it's easy to listen to what the caller's saying, to hear what's in the background, and put yourself there. And then when you do that, you tend to drift off, and you're like, what's going on? Wondering all the what ifs. That doesn't help them. I try to disassociate from that completely and focus on the questions that I want answered to get them the help that they need. So while I don't want to be, I don't want to say I'm not sympathetic, I'm more empathetic towards that, to get them the help they need, since that's why they called us.
Sure. All right. And Mara, how about you? How do you stay calm in those high pressure situations?
I honestly do way better under pressure. It's just something where I focus and I know what my job is in that moment, and that's to get that person whatever help they might need. And that's what I focus on. I don't focus on everything else around me. I just focus on how can I provide help to this person in this moment. And that just seems to get me through call after call. And then at the end of the day, I just take one big deep breath and know that I got through it.
One step at a time, one foot in front of the other, one call after another. I'm sure those can be very long days from the way it sounds. And that can probably lead to some pretty tight-knit relationships. I know we'll see some of your relationships build throughout the season of 911 Crisis Center. Mara, is your team particularly close off camera?
Sort of. I mean, you know that these people are the people you're going to count on throughout the day to get you through everything. We may not always do things in our personal lives together. We may not always be friends on the outside of work, but when we're at work, that is our job. We are there for each other to help each other get through each and every day. I mean, we are dealing with such high stress jobs and such traumatic situations. It's going to wear and tear on you. So we are there to back each other up. So when we're at work, we definitely are a family.
I see Andy nodding there for the people who are listening to the podcast, not watching it on YouTube. Andy, sounds like you would agree with what Mara said there.
Yes, completely. I think everybody has their friends and their favorites, things like that. But when it comes down to it being in the center, we're all there for each other and to back each other, not only to make sure we're getting the job done, but also to make sure that we're getting the help that the people need.
Mm-hmm. Well, 10 weeks of filming is a long time. That goes faster filming you. I'm sure you don't probably remember even all of the moments that have been captured on camera, but are there any lighthearted moments that stick out? Andy, what are some of the fun things beyond the drama of the 911 calls that we might see this season?
You might see me walk around with some numbers. Somebody had made me, they were colored numbers, like kids numbers, like they were characters. She colored them up. So every hour that hit, I would walk around like a scorecard girl with how many hours are left. So you'll probably see me doing that a lot. And it's just one way to have fun and lighten the mood.
A little countdown, live in-person countdown clock.
Yep.
I love it. Mara, is there anything that sticks out to you? Any fun moments that we might get to see from the season?
Yeah, so you guys will definitely get to see our Dispatch Appreciation Week, which our management team provides to us. It's in the month of April. It's National Telecommunicators Week. So our bosses always do really fun stuff. We dress up, we have all sorts of goodies, we have games, raffles. So you'll definitely get to see the inside of that, which is obviously one of our favorite weeks because we're getting all sorts of treats.
Well, that sounds nice. That does sound really nice. Now, I think I was reading, about the show, some of the stuff that's out on the Oxygen website, and I think that you guys share a superstition that we share in the news industry. I'm sure there's a lot more fun on the, I don't even know if I should say the word out loud right now, but on the not loud days. Do we see any of that? Do we see people breaking the jinx, talking about how it's, I'm just going to say it, quiet in the dispatch center that day? Mara?
I don't know that you'll actually see it because we really do try very hard not to use the Q word in dispatch. It's like it's a felony in all ways. It's a felony. You can't say it. It's forbidden. So you may not see it, but it is definitely something that we are very superstitious about. You never use that Q word.
Straight to the tank if you use the Q word.
Yeah. You get the busy station for the day.
Oh yeah, there you go. All right, Andy, I'll ask you first. All said and done, I know it hasn't aired yet, so I'm presuming you guys haven't seen the final cuts yet as we've been talking here. If there's a season 2 911 Crisis Center, are you in? Would you do it again after going through one season?
I wouldn't mind. Yeah, it did bother me. Like Mara had said, at first it was awkward, with the cameras in your face. You're like on 911 and the whole time you're seeing this camera off to the side. And so it was a little nerve-wracking, but you did get used to it, and eventually you just ignored them and went about your day. And that really got that way towards the end. I wouldn't mind doing it again, but I know a lot of people were ready to see them leave when they left.
Yeah. I can understand that feeling. I have a little bit of experience with the reality TV thing myself. It's fun to do it. Maybe nice to see them go. Mara, how about you? Would you do a season 2?
I'm not opposed to a season 2. However, I would really like to see other centers be involved and other places just to see what they deal with each and every day. Cause I know what we deal with and that's great. But I would like to see, maybe a busier place even, like a really big city, New York City, Los Angeles, something like that, just to see the insides of what they have to deal with. Cause I know ours is busy, but I know, it can get crazy anywhere.
But would you watch it, Mara, if it was another city? That would break your 911 rule.
Well, no, because that's a reality show. I won't watch any movies or any of those fabricated shows. But if it's actually based on reality, I would definitely love to watch it and see what other people deal with on each and every day, because it's so different.
Okay, there you go. That makes sense. Important distinction. Then that's in line with what you said earlier. You don't want to see anything that's not really true to form. All right. Well, we are very excited to see 911 Crisis Center when it premieres here on Oxygen. Andy, tell us when and where we can watch it.
So Oxygen Channel, it's Saturday, November 6th. It says it's at 9 Central. So
9/8 Central.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. And then, so that starts on Saturday on Oxygen.
All right.
You can also go to their webpage now, and they have kind of like little teasers. It's under their Oxygen Insider, and then you just have to select 911 Crisis shows. And they have, I think, like 4 different teasers that are about 5 minutes long that kind of go in the center, talking about night shift, introducing some of the amazing dispatchers we worked with, things like that.
All right. Well, we look forward to getting to know more about the both of you and your incredible cast that'll be with you on 911 Crisis Center, based out of Chagrin Falls. Mara, Andy, thank you so much for being with me on the 3 Things to Know podcast today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sounds like it's going to be a very interesting, very fascinating show. Get a little peek behind the curtain into what happens in those dispatch centers, because that's something that, we only see, like Mara was saying, we see it depicted on TV and in movies a certain way, but you just never really necessarily know what's going on behind the curtain, behind those people who are so critical to taking care of us and making sure that we get the help we need when we are in those most desperate situations. Okay, switching gears now. We talk every week about what you need to know in NEO, and since we're talking about the 911 Dispatch Center in Chagrin Falls, I figured we'd stay in Chagrin Falls for what you need to know in NEO, and it's not named Chagrin Falls for no reason. In Chagrin Falls, there's actually a beautiful waterfall that you can check out, and it's just, downtown Chagrin Falls is just a very charming area in and of itself. Add this beautiful waterfall that you can walk right down to, and it's an absolute dream. It's a beautiful experience no matter the season. You can go now in the fall. You can see the leaves changing. If you head there in the winter, you'll see ice on the falls, which is very cool. They also decorate it for the season, so you might see some red ribbons on the walkway down and maybe some holiday lights if you're heading down to the falls in the winter. And then in the spring, of course, everything is just re-emerging, and that's when the falls will get going again. And in the summer, if it's hot enough, you can take your swimming clothes down there, and you can actually get into the river by the falls. You can walk through the river, and it's a beautiful walk, beautiful photo. So to get there, well, a couple more facts actually about the falls first. It's 20 feet high, and in its heyday, the falls actually powered 9 different mills in the Chagrin Falls area, so very functional as well. Not necessarily being used for that purpose now, but to get there, it is at the Main Street Bridge waypoint in Chagrin Falls. It's right near the intersection of North Main Street and Bell Street, and if you're looking for sort of landmarks, there's a cute little popcorn shop right there. There's also a Starbucks and a Jenny's ice cream. So if you need an address to plug into your GPS, if you want to check out the waterfalls in Chagrin Falls, that address is 67 North Main Street. That's the address for the Jenny's ice cream. That's right there. Again, very near the intersection of North Main Street and Bell Street. And there's a very cute little, Main Street is a cute little thoroughfare there in the Chagrin Falls area. So charming little destination if you want to check it out. You want to see a little bit more of what Chagrin Falls has to offer. And that brings me to a good follow for this week. We've got a couple, and we're going to head back to our 911 Crisis Center stars for this one. If you want to follow the Chagrin Valley Dispatch Center itself, you can find them on Facebook at facebook.com/Chagrin Valley Dispatch. You can also find them on Instagram at CV Dispatch. And Mara, not so big on the social media, so no social platforms to share to follow her, but if you want to follow Andy Watkins and get to know a little bit more about him, you can find him on Facebook at andy.watkins.710. You can also find him on Instagram at awatts07. That's AWATTS07. And those are your good follows for this week. Very excited to see what the show is like again on Oxygen. It's called 911 Crisis Center, coming out on Saturday, November 6th at 9/8 Central. And like Andy said, if you want to get a little sneak peek of the previews, check that out. That'll be linked on WKYC.com and also in the YouTube info if you're watching this on YouTube, and in the show notes if you are listening on your favorite podcast platform. And that's it today for what you need to know in your 3 Things to Know podcast. I'll see you back next week with more 3 Things to Know. In between now and then, I would appreciate it if you could share this podcast, like it, subscribe, leave a rating and review, and that just helps us connect with more people here in Northeast Ohio. So let's get that job done. We would really appreciate it. Thanks, everybody. I'm Stephanie Haney, and I'll see you back next week.
Thanks for listening to 3 Things to Know with Stephanie Haney from WKYC Studios. Subscribe now to stay in the know.